Part 1. The Museum of 1,000 Wonders. Night descended upon the capital of Asteria like a velvet curtain. The towers of palaces glimmered with silver lights, the last carriages rolled along the cobblestone streets, and enchanted lanterns drifted across the sky like golden jellyfish. But far away on a hill, surrounded by gardens of glowing trees, stood a building that never slept. It was the Great Museum of 1,000 Wonders. Within its halls were treasures gathered from every corner of the world, crowns of ancient dragon kings, mirrors crafted by fairies, mechanical hearts of golems, musical boxes made by genies, and hundreds of other marvels. People said the museum was protected better than any royal treasury. Some claimed it was impossible to get inside. Others said that even if you managed to enter, you would never get out. One young thief considered such stories an invitation. On the roof of a nearby tower lay a girl dressed in a black panther suit. A hood with small cat-like ears concealed her hair. A black cloak rested beside her. Dozens of pockets filled with tools lined her belt. Her name was Selina. She observed the museum through a small spyglass. 3 months of preparation, she muttered. 22 security diagrams. 17 sleepless nights. All for one little walk. A tiny green head emerged from beneath her collar. Pie. It was Suzy. At first glance, she looked like an ordinary lizard no longer than a hand. At second glance, it became clear that there was nothing ordinary about her. Suzy's scales shimmered in every shade of emerald. Tiny horns glowed with a soft golden light. Her greatest talent was sensing magic. Not merely sensing it. She could see magical currents as clearly as people see roads. To her, spells looked like colorful threads, traps glowed like torches, and hidden doors shone like brightly lit passageways. In addition, Suzy could become invisible for short periods of time. She could also chew through magical seals. That made her an invaluable companion for a professional thief. So, partner? Selina asked. Pie. I agree. Tonight should be fun. Selina pulled out a small flashlight. At first glance, it looked completely ordinary. A brass casing. A round lens. A worn handle. But the moment she twisted a small adjustment ring, a thin silver beam shot from the lantern. The beam touched the museum wall. The stone became transparent. Selina smiled. This artifact was known as the wall seer. Its beam allowed the user to see through walls, ceilings, and doors. Only at a limited distance, of course. For a thief, that was more than enough. She slowly examined the rooms inside. A corridor. A staircase. 2 guards. A magical seal. 3 living statues. Another trap. Then another. And another. Wonderful, she whispered. The museum had certainly prepared for unwanted visitors. Selina put away the flashlight and removed a coil of silvery thread. She secured a hook to the edge of the roof, took a running start, jumped. For several seconds she hung above the dark void between the buildings. The wind struck her face. The museum tower rushed toward her. Selina caught a stone ledge and rolled smoothly onto a balcony on the upper floor. Not a sound. Like a shadow. Or a true panther. First obstacle cleared. Suzy chirped approvingly. The window was protected by 3 layers of magic. The first layer would trigger an alarm. The second would freeze the intruder. The third would turn them into stone. Selina carefully examined the runes. Beautiful craftsmanship. Suzy hopped onto the frame. Her eyes began to glow. She sniffed. Then gently licked one of the runes. It sparked. And went dark. Then another. And another. The little lizard moved swiftly across the magical symbols as if erasing them with an invisible pencil. Within a minute, the entire protection system was gone. You're a genius. Pie. Selina carefully opened the window. Inside was a long hall beneath a stained glass ceiling. And immediately she encountered the first surprise. There was no floor. Or rather, there appeared to be one. The wall seer revealed the truth. Far below yawned a chasm nearly 40 meters deep. The stone tiles were merely an illusion. The real path consisted of transparent glass platforms suspended in midair. Selina smiled. A promising beginning. She activated the wall seer once more. The beam revealed the locations of the invisible platforms. Step. Step. Jump. Turn. One step backward. Another leap. Suzy sat calmly on her shoulder. A few minutes later they reached the opposite side. But the moment Selina touched the door, a deep rumble rolled through the hall. Stone figures began emerging from the walls. 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, 30. An entire army of statues was awakening. Blue fire flared within their eyes. Looks like the museum wants to introduce itself. The first statue raised a sword. The second drew a bow. The third unfurled wings of stone. Selina grinned. Well then. She adjusted the bottomless bag hanging from her shoulder. The bag looked small and completely empty. It weighed absolutely nothing. You could place a gold coin inside. Or a wardrobe. Or 10 wardrobes. As long as the object could fit through the opening. Within the bag existed a vast enchanted space with no visible limit. Selina patted it affectionately. Looks like you'll be working hard tonight. The statues advanced. Suzy vanished from sight. The blue flames burned brighter. And somewhere deep within the heart of the museum, beyond dozens of doors and hundreds of traps, waited the greatest treasure of all. The treasure that had inspired this daring heist. But first, Selina would have to reach it. And the most dangerous challenges were only just beginning. Part 2. A Dance Among Traps. The stone guardians moved at once. 30 figures armed with swords, spears, and bows surrounded Selina in the vast hall. Blue fire burned in their eyes. Stone scraped against stone. The floor trembled beneath their heavy steps. Anyone else would have tried to run. But Selina merely smiled. "Well then, friends, show me what you've got." The first statue swung its sword. Selina ducked. The blade whistled over her head. She performed a backward handspring. Vaulted over the second statue. Pushed off a column with one foot. Launched herself several meters into the air. Flipped forward. And landed directly on the shoulders of a third guardian. The stone giant hesitated for only a moment. That was enough. Selina struck a golden rune on its neck with her fingertips. The rune went dark. The statue froze. One down. The others accelerated. Meanwhile, Suzy disappeared. Completely. As if she had dissolved into thin air. Only the little lizard knew what she was doing. She raced across the ceiling between the chandeliers and quickly reached a wall. Before her shimmered a magical control node. Hundreds of energy threads stretched from it to the guardians. Suzy chirped happily. She loved things like this. The lizard opened her mouth. And unexpectedly released a long tongue made of pure golden energy. The tongue touched the magical node. Suzy pulled it back. Along with a sizable chunk of the spell itself. The node flickered. 3 statues stopped immediately. Then 2 more. Then another. Pie. Suzy was very pleased with herself. Meanwhile, Selina was already running along the wall. Yes, the wall. She sprinted several steps straight upward. Jumped. Caught hold of a chandelier. Swung from it. And flew across half the hall. Arrows passed beneath her feet. One struck a column. The column exploded into a cloud of ice. Unpleasant. Selina tossed a small silver sphere. It struck the floor. A blinding flash erupted from it. The guardians lost sight of their target for a moment. That moment was enough. Selina dove through a doorway at the far end of the hall. And slammed it shut behind her. Beyond the door lay the gallery of enchanted clocks. Hundreds of clocks. Large and small. Round and square. Some hung on the walls. Others floated through the air. A few scuttled across the floor on mechanical legs. Tick. Tock. Tick. Tock. Thousands of sounds merged into a strange melody. Suzy appeared on Selina's shoulder. "What do you think?" The lizard chirped nervously. Then Selina noticed the problem. The beam of her flashlight revealed the truth. The entire hall was one enormous time trap. Touch a single mechanism. And you might age 100 years. Or become a child again. Or get trapped inside a single second forever. Charming place. Selina turned the wall seer to maximum power. The walls became transparent. Streams of magic shone like colorful rivers. Now she could see a safe path. But it was far from easy. She would have to leap through dozens of active zones. Precisely. Quickly. Without mistakes. Selina took off running. Jump. Roll. Somersault. A narrow beam. Another jump. A spin in midair. A landing on her fingertips. Then another dash. To an observer, it looked less like movement and more like a dance. In one place she had to run along a swinging pendulum. In another she leapt between two floating clocks. In a third she squeezed through an opening narrower than her hand. Meanwhile, Suzy simply became invisible and scampered across the ceiling. Sometimes I envy you. Pie. At the end of the gallery stood the first true treasure chamber. And here the bottomless bag finally revealed its full potential. Dozens of artifacts lay before Selina. Golden goblets. Floating crystals. Self-writing quills. Musical boxes. Eternal candles. Helmets of ancient heroes. Spellbooks. Let's get to work. She opened the bag. Inside was absolute darkness. Perfectly black. Like an entrance to another dimension. Selina began collecting her loot. A goblet vanished. A music box vanished. A book vanished. A large chest vanished. Then another. Then another. The bag remained just as light as before. As if it contained nothing but a feather. Within minutes, half the exhibit had disappeared. Not bad for a start. But the real challenges still lay ahead. The central levels of the museum were not protected by statues. Nor by traps. They were guarded by high-order magical sentinels. Creatures possessing true intelligence. When Selina entered the next corridor, the air shimmered. A massive wolf emerged from golden light. It was nearly the size of a horse. Its wings were made of starlight. Its eyes burned with white fire. Intruder detected. The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Good evening, Fluffy. You are ordered to stop immediately. Can't. I have a schedule. The wolf lunged. What followed was, in Selina's opinion, the most absurd chase of her life. She raced through corridors. Vaulted over railings. Slid beneath doors. Ran along walls. Swung across courtyards on ropes. And behind her thundered the luminous wolf. It smashed through doors. Leapt over staircases. Soared through the air on shining wings. Several times the distance between them shrank to only a few steps. Yet each time Selina found a way out. Once she dropped a suit of armor onto it. Another time she used a mirror portal. A third time she tricked it into colliding with its own illusion. Even so, she understood one thing. Sooner or later, the wolf would catch her. Then came Suzy's finest hour. The little lizard suddenly leaped from Selina's shoulder. She scurried toward a massive magical lock set into the wall, and opened her mouth. Blue fire burst forth. Not ordinary fire. It was the flame of devouring enchantments. The fire did not burn objects. It consumed magic. The lock went dark. The wall vanished. A hidden passage opened behind it. Suzy. Pie. Selina darted inside. The wall sealed itself immediately afterward. The luminous wolf sped past, without ever noticing the secret entrance. Silence followed. For the first time all night, Selina and Suzy found themselves in a small circular chamber. At its center stood a glass pedestal. Resting upon it was an ancient map. The very item Selina had been searching for during all these months. The map of the Forgotten Gates. A legendary artifact said to reveal the road to the treasures of vanished wizards. So the rumors were true. She carefully picked up the map and placed it inside her bag. Then she noticed something strange. There was an inscription on the back of the pedestal. Only a few words. The true treasure lies one floor below. Selina and Suzy exchanged glances. You know. Pie. I think that was only the warm-up. Somewhere deep beneath the museum, a heavy impact echoed through the darkness. Then another. As though something enormous was awakening below. A spark of excitement appeared in Selina's eyes. Because ahead lay the final level of the museum. The most forbidden. The most dangerous. The place where the treasure behind all the other treasures was hidden. Part 3. The heart of the museum. The heavy impacts continued to echo from the depths of the museum. Boom. 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 As though a giant heart were awakening after centuries of sleep. Selina and Suzy stood before a spiral staircase descending into darkness. Downward. To a place visitors were never allowed to enter. To a place even most museum curators had never seen. To the place where the heart of the museum rested. Well, Suzy. Pie. I agree. It's a little late to turn back now. And so they descended. The staircase ended in an enormous circular chamber. Selina stopped in awe. The room was breathtaking. The entire ceiling depicted a night sky. Constellations drifted across it. Silver comets flew between the stars. The walls were made of black crystal. And at the center of the chamber stood a gigantic golden sphere the size of a house. It was the source of the booming sounds. Boom. 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 Thousands of magical sparks swirled within it. Like tiny stars. Selina slowly raised the wall seer. A silver beam shone from the artifact. It passed through the golden shell. And she saw what lay inside. That can't be. Within the sphere slept a dragon. Tiny. No larger than a cat. curled up peacefully. Every booming sound was the beating of its heart. It's... Suzy began hopping excitedly on Selina's shoulder. Both of them knew the legend. The last star dragon. A creature believed extinct for centuries. Its magic powered every protective system in the museum. Every trap. Every seal. Every guardian. At that moment, a voice spoke. "Congratulations." Selina spun around. A figure emerged from the air itself. An old man in flowing blue robes. Transparent. Made of light. "Who are you?" "Archmage Velarius, founder of the museum. You died 300 years ago. Which explains why I appear somewhat transparent." Selina could not help smiling. The ghost seemed surprisingly cheerful. "So you're here to guard the museum?" "Not exactly. I merely observe." "Then you've come to stop me?" "No." Selina blinked. "No. No." The old mage slowly walked around the sphere. "You see, the museum was never created to store treasures. What was it created for? To find worthy individuals. Thieves. Adventurers. That's a very diplomatic way of putting it." The ghost laughed. "For the last 2 centuries, 843 thieves have tried to break in." "Seriously?" "I kept records." "And how many made it this far?" "You're the first." The Archmage folded his hands behind his back. "Most of the artifacts in this museum have become little more than exhibits. Their creators are gone. Their owners are forgotten. They gathered dust for centuries." He studied Selina carefully. "At least you intend to use them." "Possibly. That's already better than many kings." Suddenly a siren echoed through the chamber. This time it was a real alarm. Red runes ignited across the walls. Suzy chirped anxiously. Selina raised the wall seer. And immediately spotted the problem. Dozens of battle mages were approaching the museum at high speed. Apparently someone had finally noticed her visit. "Looks like time's up." The Archmage nodded. "I'm afraid so." "Is there a back exit?" "Certainly." "Where?" Velarius pointed upward. Selina followed his finger. Near the ceiling was a tiny door. Nearly 40 meters above the floor. "You're joking." "A little." A minute later began the most ridiculous part of the entire night. Selina sprinted up the golden sphere. Nearly straight upward. She pushed off protrusions. Leaped between floating platforms. Slid down chains. Performed somersaults above bottomless drops. Below, the voices of approaching guards echoed through the chamber. Above, the tiny door promised freedom. Meanwhile, Suzy revealed another ability. The rarest one she possessed. The most astonishing. Tiny translucent fins unfolded along her back. And suddenly she took flight. It turned out that she could manipulate currents of magical air. Suzy darted around her companion, leaving glowing green trails behind. Whenever Selina stepped onto one of those trails, her jumps became twice as long. "Why didn't you show me this before?" Pyeth. "You were waiting for a dramatic moment, weren't you?" The lizard looked extremely pleased with herself. The door was within reach. Then the air exploded with light. A familiar figure appeared before the exit. The luminous wolf. The very same one. Only now its eyes burned brighter than ever. "Intruder detected." "You again." Repeat detection of intruder confirmed. Remarkable observation skills. The wolf crouched, preparing to pounce. Selina stopped as well. Only a few meters separated them. Then she smiled. A very sly smile. A very Selina smile. She removed a small object from her belt. An ordinary rubber ball. The very one she had stolen from the museum's children's exhibit an hour earlier. She tossed it. The ball bounced. Boing! 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 The wolf froze. Its ears perked up. Its head turned. The ball bounced again. Boing! 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 The wolf looked at the ball. Then at Selina. Then back at the ball. And suddenly dashed after the toy. "What?" Watching through a magical mirror, Archmage Velarius laughed so hard he nearly faded away. "I forgot to mention something. The wizard who designed that guardian was very fond of dogs." Seconds later, Selina reached the door. Beyond it was a narrow tunnel. Then another. Then a staircase. Then a hatch. And finally, fresh night air. She emerged onto the roof of the museum's highest tower. Below, chaos reigned. Mages rushed through the courtyards. Guards sealed every exit. Flying patrols rose into the sky. But Selina was too high above them all. She secured a grappling hook. Tightened the line. Looked out over the city. At thousands of lights. At the moon. At the distant streets. And smiled. "Time to go home," Suzy chirped happily. A few minutes later, two tiny shadows disappeared among the rooftops of the capital. Searching for them was pointless. They vanished into a sea of lantern light and chimney smoke. Far beyond the city, in an abandoned mill beside a river, Selina finally opened her bottomless bag. Treasures spilled across the floor. Books. Crystals. Music boxes. Artifacts. The map of the Forgotten Gates. Golden goblets. Ancient scrolls. Mountains of wonders. Suzy sat proudly atop a table, watching it all. "Not bad, Pi. Though honestly, half the success belongs to you." Suzy puffed herself up with pride. Among the treasure, Selina discovered a small silver envelope. She frowned. She was certain she had never taken it. Inside was a note. Only a single line. If you ever decide to rob the moon palace of the fairy king, come find me. I have a map. Archmage Velarius. For several seconds Selina stared at the message. Then she burst out laughing. Suzy chirped as well. Far beyond the horizon, dawn was beginning to rise. And that could mean only one thing. The story of the greatest thief in the panther suit and her magical lizard companion was only just beginning.